Hold on, folks. I have so much to say about today's topic that it is going to be a little bit of a wild ride that might actually step on your toes every now and then. Today we are talking all about what to do if your kid just won't do his schoolwork. Hi everyone, I'm Pam Barnhill, and I have helped thousands of homeschoolers create doable systems, beat burnout, and bring more joy to their homeschool days. Welcome to episode 5 of the 10 Minutes to a Better Homeschool podcast. Okay, so today we are talking all about what to do if your child just won't do their schoolwork. And I want to talk about so many things, but we're going to start with this. Kids have bad days too. You may come across days where your kids just aren't into it. They aren't feeling it. They're having a really bad day and they are struggling. And you know what? When that is happening, it's totally okay to let your kid just take the day off. This happened with my teen earlier this week. For whatever reason, the hormones just come up every now and then in these certain ages when your kids hit puberty. And this child just wasn't functioning well that day, was in tears, totally not like this child to be like that. And I said, you know what? Take a day off. Take a day off. I know today you just can't even. We'll pick it up again tomorrow. And you know what happened the next day? This child did. This child picked it up and started again. No sign of what had been going on the previous day and was okay. The thing I'll say about little kids is a lot of times they don't have the words to tell you when they don't feel well. So if they're feeling sick, if their head is hurting, if they're out of sorts, if they didn't sleep well the night before, they don't have the insight that an adult does to say, hey, I'm just not feeling good today, or I think I might be coming down with something. Instead, how this manifests is digging their feet in and not doing something. So always take that into consideration when you're faced with a child who won't do work. But if you're faced with a child who consistently won't do work and you've kind of ruled out the whole physical, mental, having a bad day thing, and you realize you've got another problem on your hands, then there are two other things that come into play. And these things are all about you, okay? These things are not about the kid. They're about you, the parent. Okay, I know, I'm stepping on toes here. The first thing is, have you really set the expectation that we expect schoolwork to be done in this house? This is just the way it is. And you know what? Nothing else happens until the schoolwork is finished. No having fun, no playing with friends, no going places, no video games, no watching TV, no riding your bike down to the creek, no playing with the dog, nothing. It doesn't happen until the schoolwork is finished. And, it's okay. It's okay for you to have that expectation. It's okay for you to kind of put down that rule, that expectation in your house that, look, nothing else gets done until school is done, and stick with it. And you may say to me, well, gosh, Pam, I don't have the time. I just don't have the time to deal with this. You know what? That is the job. My good friend Sarah McKenzie talks about all the hard things of homeschooling actually being the job of homeschooling. That right there is the job until your kid learns that. And it may take a week of being consistent with that expectation, 2 weeks of being consistent. It may take 2 months of being consistent with that expectation. But until your kids have that expectation, they know that that's what your family expects, that is the job right there. Teaching them that schoolwork must be done on any given day, and until it's done, we don't do anything else. So setting the expectation is very, very important. But then perhaps the biggest favor that you can do yourself when it comes to getting your kids to do their homework is establishing consistency in your homeschool. Because if you are inconsistent, some days we do school, some days we don't do school, you're not establishing a pattern of every day we get up and this is what we do, no matter what. You can't talk me out of it. You can't wheedle your way out of it. You can't drag your feet and get me to put it off. This is what we're doing. And until you establish that pattern of consistency, then there's always this doubt in your kids' minds. And there's always this uncertainty in your kids' minds. They wake up and they just don't know what's going to be happening that day. Are they doing school or are they not doing school? And so we need to establish those patterns of consistency. And this is the thing that's going to get your kids to do their schoolwork with much fewer complaints. Not no complaints, but fewer complaints. How can we build consistency in our homeschool? If you haven't established a pattern of consistency, if you don't have that, how can you do that? Well, there are a few different tips that I have for you. So the first thing is to kind of start small and build slow. If you haven't been consistently doing homeschool in your house, right, you don't want to just like wake up tomorrow morning and try to do 7 or 8 things. Instead, pick maybe 3 things and do 3 things for a couple of days and then start doing 4 things and then start doing 5 things. So build into this. Don't shock everybody's system if you haven't been really consistent with your school days, because then you get into this kind of burnout and bust cycle, right? Where you like, oh, we're going to do it today, and you do a bunch of stuff and you just completely wear everybody out physically and emotionally and mentally, and then the next day you don't feel like doing anything. And, schooling well takes energy. It is exhausting when you first get started, and so build into that. The second thing to do is to make never miss twice your motto. Because look, we're human. We all fail. There are times, even today, where I'll wake up and I'm just like blow off a school day and not much gets done because there's other things going on in life, and maybe I'm needing a mental health day. But what I have to do is the day after that, don't miss again. So your new motto becomes never miss twice in order to keep your homeschool days consistent. If you miss one day, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep going. The next thing you need to do is establish what I call a minimum viable day. So this concept, and I'll probably end up doing a whole podcast just on this one concept, but the idea is, what is the least amount of school that we can do today and still feel like we have successfully done school? In our house, it would probably be morning time and math. If we do morning time and math, we all feel like we've done a school day and we've been consistent. So when there are those crazy days that life goes off the rails, but I don't want to let my consistency go, I don't want my kids to feel like we're not getting school done, we do our minimum viable day. And it keeps up that pattern of consistency that we're trying to establish. The fourth thing you need to do is you need to celebrate your success. You need to track your school days and celebrate your successes. So write down, make a little X on your calendar every single day that you do school and do it successfully, and celebrate that win with some kind of little reward for yourself. Maybe it's an extra cup of tea or a trip to a bookstore by yourself. Celebrate it with your kids. Say, you know what? We're going for 10 great school days in a row. And when that happens, we're going to get donuts. So celebrate those things and track them so you can see that you are or are not being consistent. And finally, number 5, just get started. There is never going to be a perfect time. Life is never going to be smooth and easy sailing. You will never be perfectly ready. You have to start messy or you won't get started at all. So pick out those 2 or 3 things, get started with them, make your MVD, make never miss twice your motto, and start being consistent with your homeschool days. And when you do, when you set the expectation and you start building up this pattern of consistency, we're doing homeschooling and the only thing that's going to stop us is an act of God, then you start having fewer problems with kids who refuse to do homeschool. You know what? That is the answer right there. It's not easy. I'm sorry. I wish I had a magic bullet for you, but I don't. That's the answer. I guarantee it. Okay, so I will be back next week to talk all about what homeschooling in the early elementary years looks like in your home. Until then, keep on homeschooling.